All right, so I found this article by this guy named Byron Wien, which I don't really know much about him, but he's 80 years old. And he created this article with a whole bunch of life lessons that he's learned in his first 80 years. And we were reading through this and we both thought it was really good. So we're gonna pull out a few of them because they're just really great. And so even though we haven't lived 80 years, even combined, we haven't lived 80 years yet. Man, we're gonna get a lot wiser. This is gonna be cool. And so we're gonna just kind of go over a few of these because there's just some really good stuff in here. So first thing he says, or the first one that we pulled out, because there's actually a bunch more here. But he said, when you meet someone new, treat that person as a friend. Assume he or she is a winner and will become a positive force in your life. Most people wait for others to prove their value. Give them the benefit. Am I boring you?
It's that baby.
Well, we have a newborn. Most people wait for others to prove their value. Give them the benefit of the doubt from the start. Occasionally you'll be disappointed, but your network will broaden rapidly if you follow this path.
I love this one because ultimately people want to feel valued.
Yeah.
They want to, I don't know if you've ever been in the position where you go someplace new and there's no one there that knows you and you kind of feel, oh boy.
Hi.
You feel out of your element and you feel kind of like, hey, I'm really cool, but nobody here knows it. Feel really awkward and you just have to wait for people to discover some of the things.
Discover your coolness.
But when people come up to you and they're extremely warm and kind and truly interested in you and what you have to offer in life, you instantly create this bond. And it is, I mean, I just think feeling that way is awesome. And I think that what this is saying is treat everyone that way. Like they're the person in the room that doesn't know anyone and that they have a secret cool thing that you get to discover.
Yeah. So quick story. Over the last few years, I've gone to a good amount of conferences and kind of business conferences. And I wouldn't call them networking conferences, but that's what's happening.
There's some of that, yeah.
And there was a guy there, John Corcoran, who made the biggest impression to me. Like in general, in these settings, there's this unspoken kind of hierarchy of
it's kind of
your
like
level
high
of
school.
Success, your level of success. So I'm going to talk to you because you're successful and I might be able to get something out of you. Well, anyway, so I was introduced to John, and he didn't know me from Adam. He didn't know anything about me. He had nothing to get out of me. And he sat there and like talked to me and asked me all these questions about my life and just like what I was interested in. And, and he's a really successful guy in what he does. And he had no reason to be interested in me. And he was asking me about Linda and about our kids and just genuinely caring and trying to figure out. And like it left such a mark on me. Like I couldn't believe it. And this is a guy who he worked for, I think one or two of the presidents. He has pictures of him shaking hands with Obama and like, it just had like a lot of success, knows a ton of people, and yet was so good at this, so good at making me feel appreciated and valued. And the reality is, it's like Byron mentions, sometimes people are going to let you down and sometimes, they won't, but it's just a good way to live your life. It makes other people feel loved.
And how many more friendships can you gain?
And wouldn't Jesus do that? Isn't that how Jesus would do things, So another point he made is he said, try to think of your life in phases so you can avoid a burnout. And this is really timely for us right now because we have a newborn. And so
exhausting.
Not only do we have a newborn, but we also have little kids. We have 3 kids, 5 and under. And so our life is just a swirly, whirly mess, can I say that, of everything going on.
Right.
And it's really fun, but there's a lot of aspects of simpler times in our lives that we're missing and longing for a little bit.
It's very self-sacrificing.
Yeah, as any parent knows.
Yes.
But this phase, I think especially, I'm really hoping that things do evolve as we get to the next level of parenting. But this is something that's been on our minds a lot because
it does. I think when you're in something, and especially, I think the older you get, the more you realize things are cyclical. But the younger you are, you feel like this is going to last forever.
Yeah, I think that's just a natural tendency to think that and assume that. But the reality is that it's not. It's a phase, and I'm beginning to think of my business even more as this, and just, and I've kind of accepted more or less that, okay, for this, few years of my life with my business, like I just need to, I'm going to work hard, but I'm not going to be able to necessarily have the pedal to the metal or whatever, the way that I might want to. And it's okay. It's like, I'm just going to chill and coast a little bit more because I want to spend time with my family in these formative years. I want to be around. I want to be involved in what's going on. And, you need help. And
right.
So, and to me, that just seems like the best way to live a life, that when I am 80, I'll be able to look back and say, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad that during that, those formative years with the kids, that I wasn't working 60, 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I think there's a lot of different ways to apply this to our lives, but I just think it's great.
Yeah.
Another thing he says, travel extensively. Try to get everywhere before you wear out. Attempt to meet local, interesting people where you travel and keep in contact with them throughout your life.
Yeah. Again, I feel like we are in a phase of maybe traveling less than we'd like, than we'd like, and then we have in the past. But we have traveled a good bit. I think we took extreme advantage of this before.
Yeah, we had 9 years of being married without kids.
Right, before the kids were born, and then also even just with our first, I feel like we did
not 9 years. What was it? 5 years? How long was it? 9 years?
I think it was 8.
Anyway, doesn't matter. It was a while. We had a good amount of time to travel.
And even with our first one, we did a good amount of traveling with them.
Yeah.
But we have so many friendships from that phase of our life, from meeting people in different areas.
And I love it. Like I view it like, I'm viewing it more like collecting things. And I like collecting friends in different cities. And it's because it's just kind of fun. Because then when you go there, you have somebody and somebody you can catch up with and meet with. And
ask some questions about what's cool to do in that city,
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's one part of it. But the other part is this, try to get everywhere before you wear out. And there's some wisdom in this because this just didn't dawn on me. Like, I'm not worn out. I have energy. But if I think about my grandparents, like, they're not traveling anywhere. They don't want to travel. They don't want to drive their car. Like, it's a different phase of life that I know nothing about. And this guy's 80 years old, and he's acknowledging that, you get tired. And so you should probably try to do some of the stuff on the earlier half of your life. Now, obviously, finances are, different now than they are when you're 60 or 70. Hopefully better as you get older, but even still, I think that's a little bit of an argument to try to do things and not save everything up for the last portion of your life, Right. That's one of the things that I still like about Tim Ferriss's kind of argument of doing mini retirements is don't save retirement just for the retirement years. Like, try to find ways to live your life and enjoy it, like, in the earlier half of your life.
Yeah, and another thing about travel is we have some tips about how to travel fairly cheap, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, check out the video about how we travel for free. This is like, the other thing, too. We'll have it linked up above and down in the description below. But that's helped immensely because even though we haven't been in the strongest financial position for some of those years, we've been able to travel a whole bunch. So you can check that out. So another thing he says on philanthropy, my approach is to try to relieve pain rather than spread joy. I thought that was really interesting.
So, explain it a little bit more. It took me a minute to understand what he was talking about.
So what he means by that is music, theater, art museums have many affluent supporters. They give the best parties, and they can add to your social luster in a community.
Which does sound fun.
But they don't need you. Right. Social services like hospitals, educational institutions can make the world a better place and can help the disadvantaged make their way towards the American dream. So his argument is focus on relieving pain rather than spreading joy.
World hunger is something I think of.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
immediate one.
And I think this is a really good point. And I would add to this. I don't know that this guy is a believer or not, but I would say, for me, my top priority is salvation, is souls. Proverbs says that he who wins souls is wise. I want to be wise. I want that to be my focus. I think that's something that is probably at the top of God's priority list. And so, all things being equal, if I can give money and it can have an impact on someone coming to know the Lord, I'm excited about that. That's a win for me.
Well, and actually, it does both of those things that he's talking about.
Yeah.
It relieves pain and it gives joy.
Yeah, that's what Jesus does. That's why I love him. Next one, this is really relevant for me right now. He says, younger people are naturally insecure and tend to overplay their accomplishments. Most people don't become comfortable with who they are until they're in their 40s. By that time, they can underplay their achievements and become a nicer, more likable person. And he says, try to get to that point as soon as you can. And I've noticed that because I feel like I am just, for whatever reason, just finally becoming a little more comfortable in my own skin, feeling a little bit less like, grade school, like everybody comparison thing. And I think humans probably always deal with this comparison trap to some extent, but I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with who I am and being okay, with who God made me.
And
I am who I am by the grace of God. Yeah.
Acknowledge it, you're okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting there. I'm on my way. I'm doing what he's saying. I'm trying to get there as soon as I can.
I mean, I think this ties back into the first one is if you want, treat others the way you want to be treated, really, is what this is, what I'm getting from this. Get yourself to a place where you can be comfortable and you don't have to have attention, but also treat others that way. Treat them like they are valued, and it will probably come back on you too.
Yeah, and this reminds me a lot of Instagram, or the problems with Instagram as a whole. Is just this, everybody's trying to show, I'm so great, I'm so this, I'm so that. Everybody's trying to portray a perfect picture. Everybody's trying to blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it is nice when you run into somebody who is just really confident and comfortable who they are, and they don't have to brag about themselves. They don't have to name drop. They don't have to do all these things to feel important, And I think as our identity is in Christ, and we really know where our true value comes from, this even becomes even easier.
Yeah.
All right, next up is when seeking a career as you come out of school or making a job change, always take the job that looks like it will be most enjoyable. He says, if it pays the most, you're lucky. If it doesn't, take it anyway. I took a severe pay cut to take each of the 2 best jobs I've ever had, and they both turned out to be exceptionally rewarding financially.
Yeah, and I think that this also goes into what are you called to do. A lot of people in ministry are not making the most money that they could possibly make, but they are called to ministry, and it is a lifestyle, and it's not just this, how am I going to make a quick buck?
Yeah, and I think it should be something that we enjoy doing. I think that I believe that God, would, and does line those things up.
Our passions
and our callings. Yeah. I almost every time I see somebody walking in their calling, it is something they're excited to be doing.
Yeah.
And that just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And this ties into the next one. He says there is a perfect job out there for everyone. Most people just never find it, and you need to keep looking. And and that's scary. It's scary. It's scary laying down a career path that you've been in for 10 or 20 years to try to find the thing that might be the perfect job for you. It's scary starting a business. It's scary like taking these steps, but I mean, I can tell you that, I've been in jobs that I've hated, that I wasn't good at, that I struggled with, and I've been in, doing some things that I'm gifted at and that I feel joy with when I do, and I feel fulfillment, and it's night and day, and if you've been in that situation, it's night and day. It's like just no comparison. And so you should try to get to that point, you should pray and try to, get some direction on how to get there.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it reminds me of the other one. Things are cyclical. Sometimes what you do something for a while and then you need to switch it up. Or sometimes you are kind of doing the responsible thing of, I need to get a job and I need to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And then God leads you into the thing that you're passionate about, that you're called to, that you're excited about, and that gives you a lot of life.
Yeah. All right, last one on his list is he says, every year try to do something that you've never done before that is totally out of your comfort zone. You'll be running a marathon, attending a conference that interests you on an offbeat subject, blah, 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 traveling to an obscure destination alone. He said this will add to the essential process of self-discovery.
What I like about this is that he says every year do something. That seems very doable for everybody. That he's not like do something new every day.
Well, it doesn't need to be expensive, but the point is that you're breaking yourself out of your comfort zone, because as we get older, I've already noticed this. We're not even 40 yet, but I've already noticed this. Like the older we get, every single year, we become more and more. My world revolves around making myself comfortable, and you do that for too long, and you're just in this tiny little bubble. And so I think that's a really valuable exercise to continue going outside of your comfort zone whatever that means for you. And it's going to be different for every person, but I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah, I like that one.
Anyway, if you found this enjoyable, hit that like button down below. If you haven't subscribed yet and you want to, please hit the subscribe button and the bell if you want to hear from us every time we create something. And that's all. Be blessed, be a blessing, and we'll see you next time. Adios.